I'm bored.
Well, I got this flute from the AHS-TV Foundation.
Well, that's cool. I wish I got one.
Well, maybe they'll donate you one.
That'd be awesome. Thanks.
Education Today starts now!
Welcome to Education Today. I'm Joshua Oliver of Fort City High School in the Armstrong School District. Today, we're going to take a look at an invaluable group that helps out the school district in many ways every year. You may have heard of programs such as Do Re Mi, which puts instruments in the hands of students who otherwise may not be able to afford them. You may have also heard of a number of monetary grants that teachers are awarded every year. These grants help bring cutting-edge initiatives alive in our classrooms. That group that is responsible for all of this is the AHS-TV Foundation in partnership with the district's very own faculty and other major community businesses. The AHS-TV is a nonprofit organization that raises money to provide Armstrong School District students with enriching, exciting programs that might not otherwise be funded by local tax dollars. To talk more about this today, we have the organization's executive director with us. Welcome to Education Today. Well, welcome to Education Today, Chris. How are you?
I'm good. How are you, Josh?
Good. Please tell us briefly about yourself and roles with the foundation, how long you've served, and any kind of background you'd like to share.
Well, my name is Chris Garatano. I work on the AHS-TV Foundation as the executive director. I've been doing that for about 4 or 5 years now. I also work with the school district as the multimedia technician, primary responsibility being to manage the TV studio that we're sitting in right now and work with the TV production students of the district, and I've been doing that for about, this is going into my 7th year now.
Awesome. What is the main objective of the AHS-TV Foundation?
Well, the foundation is, although it is Armstrong School District Foundation, it's named that way because everything that we do is to, all the money that we raise, all the programming that we do is to specifically help the Armstrong School District in any way that we can. So our main objective is to provide funding for initiatives to help the AHS-TV students, faculty, and staff in situations where maybe something can't be afforded or to help supplement a program that's already taking place.
Okay. If you wouldn't mind telling us about some of the programs the AHS-TV Foundation offers and some stories about how they are benefiting students.
Well, the primary program that we do is the monetary grants. We call them the Educator Innovative Mini Grants. And what we do is we offer 4 different grants every year. We do 2 primary offerings, one being in the fall and one being in the winter. Mm-hmm. And then in between there, as what we found as teachers would come up with ideas during the course of the school year, instead of waiting until December to submit a grant and only having the second half of the year to work on it, we now accept grants in a rolling period. So they would be the 25th of every month as a deadline and for grants, and then the first meeting of the next month is when those grants may or may not be approved. It's at least when they're evaluated. But the 4 different offers, we have a $500 classroom grant, a $1,000 department grant, a $2,000 school-wide grant, and a $5,000 district-wide grant. Mm-hmm. And then in addition to that, we have money that we raise. Our primary fundraiser every year for that is the AHS-TV golf outing, which we always hold in June, normally the week after school's over. And we also receive money from teachers who contribute money from their paychecks, each pay period. And we also receive money from local businesses such as F&M Bank and Northwest Savings Bank, EQT, a number of others that have provided us money over the years to help fund our Educational Improvement Tax Credit Program, which is a program that money that can only be donated to nonprofit organizations. It's a tax write-off for local businesses, and I think we'll talk about that a little bit later. Some of the other things we have is the Do Re Mi program. That stands for Donated Refurbished Musical Instruments. And that program gets instruments into the hands of students who otherwise can't afford them. And we have several of those instruments that are currently out in the district that students are using. We have a traveling planetarium. It actually is a large blow-up bubble, essentially, and it'll play different slides and it'll project different images such as constellations on the inside of the dome. I got to experience that a couple years ago. It's a pretty neat thing that we have. We also funded the Weather Bug. It's a state-of-the-art Weather Bug program that is a camera that's on top of West Shamokin High School's roof right now. And that feed is being used more and more by the local news stations when they show them during their weather reports.
Okay.
And it also is involved in different classroom activities that they're able to pull different information about the weather into their programming, and then they use it, it gets utilized by teachers. It could be utilized throughout the district, not just the teachers at West Shamokin, so that's kind of a cool thing about that. And then we've also funded iPad carts for all of our primary buildings. We have 2 buildings remaining right now. We helped fund the robotics course, which is a new program. It's about 2 years old in the school district now. And that is primarily funded through EITC money. So
Cool. Interesting. There are many ways in which the foundation receives and can receive money from a variety of donors. For those who may be interested in donating, how can they go about that?
The primary way to go about that would be to contact me at Katanning Junior High School. I have a direct line number now. It's 724-543-4800. We also have a link on that has all the information about the foundation on the Armstrong School District website. The far right-hand side, there's a button there that says Foundation. You can click on that and go through. There's a whole bunch of different contact information there. We have a P.O. Box 961 in Katanning. That things can be mailed to. As far as money that we received, as I mentioned, we have the payroll giving, which, as I mentioned, is teachers who give money. Normally, they either give a set amount or they give, say $1 or $2 or $5 per paycheck, and then they can do that for a school year, or they can do that for as long as they're employed by the district. And then the foundations, golf out, and those are our primary sources of how we get donations. Anybody can donate. Any instruments can be donated as well for our Do Re Mi program. All of it would be you would be given a letter so that you could file that at tax time, as well as a tax write-off, since we are a nonprofit.
Earlier you mentioned about the educator grant initiatives. Can you give us some of the examples what new ideas have popped up this year?
We have a lot of neat and fun ideas that have popped up. One of the things that we're helping fund right now is a new initiative that the music program is putting in place to teach guitar lessons, actually. And I believe they're trying to start that in 7th grade is the primary thing, and every student who comes through that program, it's being piloted right now, but eventually the plan is that every student district-wide that's in 7th grade and moving on up will be exposed to that opportunity to play the guitars that they're purchasing. There's also a movement to try to get those into some of the primary buildings as well. Very early stages of that, so that's not quite there yet. So that's one of the newest things that's kind of neat. We've also had teachers, especially in the home economics courses, that have come forward with a lot of neat ideas lately. One that was put in place last year was the GIA babies, they're called. And what those are, they're very lifelike babies. They replace the old ones, and they actually give a much more realistic approach to that particular program that the Family Consumer Sciences do. There's also been an embroidery machine purchased to help with some different projects doing embroidery work, which is kind of neat. We've had different kinds of mixers that have been purchased for some of the courses and cooking courses. And we're going to be actually doing a show in Ford City High School's classroom, highlighting some of those here pretty soon. And then there's several other neat ideas that come out every year. And the faculty comes up with a lot of good stuff that we try to put into place. And then as far as this year goes, one of the newest things we have that was just approved is going to be a virtual set editor that's going to be added to a TriCaster TV studio setup that was originally a guinea pig, a pilot program we put in place at West Shamokin. And that is a piloting, there's still some different things we're trying out there that eventually will go into our new building at the high school.
For those who may be wondering, generally what requirements or restrictions are in place when teachers apply for these grants?
There aren't a lot of restrictions that we put on our grants. The primary thing that we typically reject grants for is we don't provide funding for busing. If there's a field trip that they're trying to gain funding for, we don't provide funding for busing. And then other than that, there's not a whole lot of restrictions we put in place. We encourage the teachers, if they have an idea, to go ahead and put that on paper and get it to us, because you never know what kind of funding we're going to have from year to year and what kind of projects we see as being very good opportunities for the students. Really, the majority of the restrictions come on our side. Certain funds that we receive, I mentioned EITC, for example, can only be spent in certain ways. So there are some projects that qualify for that and others that don't. But we try to look for the most innovative things that are out there, programs that we see that are going to be something that's going to enrich students' abilities and their educational experience, and grants that can be kind of maintained, that are self-sustaining, that we won't have to continue to purchase things from year to year, and that the teachers aren't going to have to continue to purchase much from year to year.
I understand that the foundation has an all-volunteer board of trustees. Who serves on the board exactly?
Like you said, the board is all volunteers. No one's paid to be there. Currently, as our current setup is, Kirk Lorigan is our secondary principal representative and also serves tentatively as our president. Carol Lorigan is a school teacher at Catania Senior High School, but she also serves as our treasurer. Sharon Porterfield is our secretary. She's also a retired teacher and administrator from Armstrong School District. Sue Bowser is a community representative. She's also a retired teacher from the district, and she wrote a lot of very good grant ideas, so she's a good person to have on board. Dr. John Shaner, who's also is a retired administrator. Dr. Chapp is the district superintendent. And then we have a couple of other community volunteers, Linda Schaefer, Tom Toy, Lisa Lambert, and business representatives Clem Rosenberg from F&M Bank and Autumn Vorp-Seiler from Northwest Savings Bank. We also invite school board members to sit in on our meetings occasionally from time to time. And we also have the district's new business manager also sits in on our meetings from time to time. And I don't think, other than that, I think that covers everybody who currently sits on our board.
And you mentioned earlier that the AHS-TV Foundation holds an annual golf outing. What are some of the details concerning that event this year?
We don't have an exact date set for sure. I think we're looking at the second week of June as of right now. I believe it's the second Friday of June, which would be a week after graduation. But what we typically do, we do a shotgun start. Normally starts around 11 o'clock. We have 20 foursomes available for that event. And it's always held at Catania Country Club. That is intended to be the case again this year. Mm-hmm. We accept donations of all different sorts for that. A foursome is $400. We have different sponsorship levels, ranging from $500 to, I believe, $2,000 or $1,500. I can't remember exactly now. Those sponsorship levels get you different things, such as tee sponsors. Your name would be on a tee sponsor. Something new we're doing is pin flags. You know, your company would be put on a pin flag, and then you'd be presented with that flag at the end of the event. And then each of those sponsorships includes a foursome as well. We typically do like a brunch before, and then we have a nice dinner afterwards. In the past, that's been catered by Garda's. Again, those details are still coming in. We don't have anything it's firmly cemented yet, but that's typically what we normally do with that golf outing. And like I said, that's our primary fundraiser each year. We normally raise between $5,000 and $6,000 a year from that, sometimes a little bit more. So.
Great. Yeah. Okay, we're going to take a short break and then be back with more of Armstrong School District's Education Today. Stick around.
I'm Indiana County Sheriff Bob Fyhawk. We are all proud of Indiana County, but we must be worried about the negative growth of drugs and alcohol abuse. It is the responsibility of all of us, parents, teachers, and community leaders, to provide the best possible education to our youth in the prevention of drug and alcohol abuse. The law is a deterrent, but education is still our best protection. Help keep Indiana safe and drug-free. For more information on how to talk to your kids about drugs and alcohol, go to the abovetheinfluence.com, brought to you by the Armstrong, Indiana Drug-Free Communities Coalition.
Before I came to IUP, I had no idea what college would be like or what role I would play or where I'd be in the future. But when I came to IUP, everything changed. I met people who really made me feel like I belonged. I had great classes at a great nationally ranked university. Hi, my name's Megan Miller. I'm a fine arts major, and this is my university.
Hi, I'm Jen McCroskey. I'm a prevention specialist with the Armstrong Indiana Clarion Drug and Alcohol Commission. Hey parents, put your drug knowledge to the test. Attend a free teen scene program. Learn about signs and symptoms of drug use and abuse, current drug trends, resources for help, and view a large display of items where drugs can be hidden. For more information, call 724-354-2746, extension 309 to schedule a program today. Brought to you by the Armstrong, Indiana Drug-Free Communities Coalition.
We're back with Armstrong School District's Education Today. Over the last few years, we've brought in teachers who have benefited from the GRANT process and highlighted what they are doing with those grants. Tonight, we are talking with the group that makes the grant opportunities possible, the AHS-TV Foundation. It seems every year the AHS-TV Foundation takes on another new project. What is new this year?
We haven't taken on anything earth-shatteringly new, other than just new grants that are coming in. I did mention iPad carts initiative before. For the last 2 years or so, we've used EITC money to fund those. They normally cost close to $19,000. That gets a cart with a wireless router built into it for the iPads that can be moved throughout the district, and I believe it includes either 25 or 30 iPads themselves, and then those are used by the primary teachers in their classrooms. We have 2 buildings remaining to put those into over the next, hopefully the next school year, and by the fall of next year, both buildings should be covered. But this fall, Elderton Elementary received one, and I believe next year, or the next 2 that we have coming up are Shannock Valley and then West Hills Primary. All of the other buildings, including the intermediate building, already have those carts, and they've been utilizing them. And the technology department does a really nice job, helps us get those set up for district use and all of that kind of thing. Probably the main thing that we're working on, we started last year, we're still working on it this year, is our capital campaign. The purpose of that campaign is to help raise the money. Right now it's about $10.6 million in total for the district's new athletic complex. We're trying to help fund that because that facility is not involved in the building project that's being built that will combine the Katanning Junior and Senior High in Ford City, and it'll be a 7 to 12 building. But right now the athletic complex is not part of that project. It isn't covered by the money available to build that school. So we're trying to raise the money through this capital campaign to build those facilities. And what is currently planned is that there will be a soccer field that will sit up beside the building. That actually is currently in the plans already. But in front of that would be a new football stadium, which would include an 8-lane track, another small area for track and field events, both home and away side bleachers. Underneath the home side grandstand, there would be the new field house, which would include a health center, weightlifting facilities, locker rooms, everything of that nature that would be able to be utilized by the entire student body is the plan for that. Then obviously the concession stand is going to be involved in that, and you'll have obviously the bathrooms and everything. I believe the stadium will sit around 3,000 or 4,000 people, and we'll have an artificial surface on it. That's awesome. The plan for it right now. In addition, there will be there's a road that leads into the building. the driveway that leads back into the building that sits on the back half of the property. The football field and soccer field would be on your left, and on your right would be the softball field. We're looking at putting the 10.6 would include putting a softball field in, a baseball field behind that, and 6 tennis courts that would be behind the baseball field. And those would line the entire road coming up to the building and the new parking lot. So we're in a serious time crunch now to get enough money raised for that. We have different naming rights available for that capital campaign. Again, that can be found. There's links on our website. If you go to the ASD Foundation tab on the Armstrong School District website, there's a tab that says Capital Campaign. If you click on that, there's links that take you to direct information about how you can donate money to that. That's open to anybody, and again, that's also a tax write-off. We give a slip to represent that, and the money doesn't have to come in just under one lump sum. That money can be brought. You can, if you wanted to pledge $10,000, for example, you could spread that out however you wanted over 4, 5, even 10 years. Yeah. Once we get enough funding in place for that to move forward, then we'll look at other things such as advertising at the stadiums, and also maybe possibly a brick campaign, or it's also we're also selling naming rights for like shop rooms, music classrooms, things of that nature as well. And you get plaques that you could name those facilities after, and the money would go to helping the athletic complex. So,
how did it come about that the ASD Foundation decided to take on this endeavor?
It came about basically because with the money that was remaining from a loan that the district received a few years back, there's only enough money available in that loan to cover the cost of the new building. So the foundation decided that this would be a very worthwhile cause to try to get involved and raise the money to put these facilities at that new building, which would take some of the burden off of the district and the taxpayers. Anybody who donates, whether it be an individual or a corporation or a business or whatever it might be, there's a tax write-off incentive for that. And the fact that you're putting money into something that's going to help serve the community for a really, really long time. One of the things that's kind of a misnomer about we've heard a little bit about the football field, for example. It's an artificial surface. And a lot of people say, well, they only last 7 or 8 years. Well, that's what the manufacturer wants you to believe, that they're only going to last that long because they want to sell you a new one. The reality is, with an artificial surface, you're going to save a lot of money on costs that you don't have to line the field every week. You don't have to mow the grass or water it. Any maintenance that would be with the typical field, you wouldn't have to do. There would be some maintenance with the facility, but if you take care of it, it can last much longer than the 7 to 8 year time frame that they give you. We're out there trying to get information out there to the public. We want to make them aware of what's happening and where we're at and try to get this facility built, because ultimately it benefits the community and the district and the students primarily. And it'll also open up possibilities that the district could host state playoff events and maybe even district playoff events because of where it's located at in the WIUP. So there's a lot of different reasons to take it on. And those are just some of them.
Where are you at in this process at this point, and what are some of the benchmarks you've set moving forward?
Where we stand at right now is we've probably raised close to $1 million. There are some people who have said that they are interested in donating money, but there's some things that they have to wait on, some logistics of that. And we're not really at liberty right now to discuss who's donated anything or who we've talked to, and we're not even really sure if contributions are coming 100% or when they're coming, if they do. But right now we need to get a little bit further along in the process to even think about beginning to build any of the facilities up there. Obviously, the football stadium is going to be the biggest one. As far as benchmarks go, we would like to get that football facility going, because the main things that happen at the beginning of a school year, especially when you're opening a new building, is going to be athletics. And everybody knows, I think, that the football program is one of the big ones that's going to that's going to bring a lot of people together that involve and that brings together marching bands and cheerleaders and color guard or whatever different districts have or different buildings have available that's going to be coming together, and that is going to give a facility that's going to be could potentially be used by the entire student body. With an artificial surface on that field, the soccer team can use it as well. So that is the primary thing we want to get built, and then if we can get enough money raised for that, then we'll move on to the baseball, softball, and tennis courts. We haven't ruled out the possibility that if we raise a certain amount of money that we may build the less expensive facilities first, but the benchmarks that we're setting right now, I mean, we're in time crunch mode now. We need to get enough money pledged to move forward with the football facility, probably within the next month. And then, we'll kind of figure out where we're at from there.
How have you gone about raising money for this capital campaign?
We've had last June we had a luncheon. We brought in a lot of people from the community. For that, we've reached out to different businesses. And again, I don't want to specifically point anybody out at this point that we've talked to. But chances are, if you have a business in the county or especially within the district, you've been reached out to. We're looking at possibly doing alumni campaigns, and actually there's somebody from one of the graduating classes, I believe from Katanning, might be from Ford City, I'd have to double check, that they're going, as a class, they're hoping to pledge a certain amount of money. And so we're trying to get alumni campaigns going where we might be able to appeal to people who were born and raised and went through this school district, whether they still live here or not. Like I mentioned, a possible brick campaign going forward. We're not quite there yet. Selling advertising, there'll be advertising, at the stadiums, I'm sure. Different signs, scoreboards, things of that nature will be advertised for. And then the big thing is, to help raise money is the naming rights for different facilities. And I don't have the exact cost in front of me, but we have a certain cost set aside for the football stadium, baseball, softball, tennis courts, you name it, it's pretty much there's a naming right being sold with that.
I'm sure there's some kind of an incentive to donors of all sizes. What kind of incentives are you looking at offering donors?
The biggest one I think would be the naming rights. Those are the big, for large pledges. Yeah. I mean, those range from I think they range from $10,000 up to $2 million. We're looking at, the possibility of that we may not reach, anybody who's interested in spending that kind of money for naming rights. So we may revisit that or see what kind of donations we have coming in and kind of go from there. There's also different years that are associated with that. If you were to pledge $2 million, for example, you want to name the football stadium, that would be a lifetime commitment as long as the stadium's there. If you pledge $10,000 and you want to put a plaque at like one of the music rooms, for example, I think the commitment term on that is like 10 years or 20 years, something to that effect. So we have a whole different scale, and again, you can find that off of our district webpage. There's a link that has information about the project, and on page 3 of that link, there will be the breakdown for naming rights. If eventually we do a brick campaign, obviously you'd put on there, you'd have your name on there, and then that, bricks are going to last a long time. That'll be there for, the lifetime of the stadium, presumably. And then, for all donors, of course, since we are a nonprofit organization, there would be tax write-off incentives as well.
And when we come back, we will discuss what EITC dollars are and what it means for businesses to donate to the AHS-TV Foundation.